84,000 sellers yanked their home from the market in July, and that's a 7-year high. If we look at what's happening, and you can see this in the latest Redfin data, the share of delisted homes is now 5.7%, nearly 6% of all sellers are yanking their homes from the market. And again, if we go back in history, you can see this is a 7-year high for the month of July. So sellers continue to take their toys and go home. And most people think that that's a bad sign for the housing market. Most people are like, hey, that's a warning sign. But it's not. It's actually great news, because the sellers that are left on the market are the ones that in many cases don't want to negotiate. They need to negotiate because they need to sell their home. And that is really your opportunity as a buyer. That's what's really going on. But to really understand how or what's happening right now, we got to go back and see how we got here. So one of the major catalysts that I'm seeing in the housing market is obviously interest rates, right? I mean, we'll get to prices today, don't worry. But when you look at interest rates, I mean, they obviously spiked a ton in 2022, and they really haven't, come down that much. Right now, they're at 6.72%, according to Mortgage News Daily. They're down 0.03%, 3 basis points, but they are still high, folks. And what you have, quite frankly, is low buyer demand. You have low demand in the housing market, and you've got sellers out there that are, somewhat delusional, right? So they, instead of cutting their prices and dropping it to a point at which a buyer would come to the table, instead, they're just delisting and yanking their homes from the market. So let's look at a couple metros here. I'm going to show you some things that are going on are pretty extraordinary with these delistings and homes being yanked from the market. Let's start in Seattle. Seattle, folks, is not doing well with the housing market. It's just not. Look at delistings. According to Resi Club Analytics, right now, 871 delisted homes. That's a lot higher than it was in 2025. I mean, you're up nearly, over 200 homes in the metro area were delisted. 871 compared to 659 in 2025. But if I look at an area like Minneapolis, it's even worse. Look at this. 1,214 homes were delisted, removed from the market in 1 month. And so you may be seeing this where you live. You may be seeing more people take their houses off the market and just hope for a buyer that unfortunately may never come at the price that they're asking, right? I mean, this all comes down to price. It really does. I mean, rates are a function of the buyer demand. But at the end of the day, you got to have a price that the market accepts. Now, this is also good news if you're a seller, which is maybe a little counterintuitive, but it is, because it removes the chaff. It removes the people from the market that really aren't serious about selling their home. And people overprice their home all the time, folks. It's an easy thing to do because a lot of people think, oh, my home's much better than my neighbor's home. Everybody thinks that. And so they go in thinking, well, my neighbor's home sold a couple years ago at 500 grand. I should be able to sell at 550 grand. Why can't I? Well, if your home has more to offer, if it makes sense for 550, great. But if the market doesn't think that your home is worth 550, they ain't gonna bite. Price sells homes, folks. That's what sells a house, is a price. In 99% of the cases. Not the description, not a Facebook post, not what realtor you have it listed with. It's the price. That's what sells a home in a normal market. A lot of sellers aren't used to a normal market. So today on the Housing Nerd, that's what we're looking at. And you're probably thinking, or you may be thinking, hey, nerd, I'm not seeing that where I live. Where I live, it's this or it's that. Well, drop your zip code below and your city. Let us know if you're buying or selling, and I will analyze your local market today live on the air. That's the bulk of what I do on these live streams, is just take your request for anywhere in the USA, and then we will examine it down to a zip code level. By the way, my name is Jason Ferrier. I am the Housing Nerd. I'm a realtor, investor here in Ohio. I've been doing this almost 10 years now. I'm not a crash bro. I'm not going to tell you that the market is doomed. I'm also not a cheerleader telling you real estate always goes up. Better buy now. Better buy the house right now before anybody else does. Marry the house, date the rate. That ain't my game. So if you expected doom, you came to the wrong channel. If you expected somebody to tell you everything is fine, you came to the wrong channel. I'm here to look at your market, help you understand what's happening in your local housing market. So that's what we're doing. Let's just jump into one of these. I already have one to look at. Or if you have a question about the housing market, we can talk about that too. So I'm using Resi Club Analytics, by the way. Let's check this real quick. Yeah, let me do this one. That's the data I'm using here, is Resi Club Analytics. And Resi Club, this is a paid service, but I'm able to use it. I pay for it, and you can just piggyback off of what I do here on the live streams. So, all right, let me look at this one. I already got a request for this. I got a request for Pittsburgh, PA. Actually, you know what? Look at this one. $95817 in Sacramento. 95817. Let's look at that one. And who requested this? They actually did it on my comments on my channel. Shaska 19 requested Sacramento. So we're going to look at that one. We'll start with delistings, and then I'll show you inventory where you live, and then prices. So we'll look at all that. Well, delistings where you live, not much to speak of. Only 12. You really don't have a big market at all. So I'm going to zoom out to a Sacramento overview here rather than just the zip code. Let me go to the city. So let's use that. 481 delistings. And this is as of the end of May. That's the latest data that Redfin has. But last year, you actually had more delistings. So your delistings are down. Fewer sellers removing homes from the market. But let's look at active inventory. Are you gaining homes? Because inventory, folks, drives the housing market. You actually lost inventory in Sacramento. Look at this. 5,287 homes. Last year, 5,600 homes. So maybe the delistings happened last year, but look at, you actually lost listings unless somebody bought them. Did people actually buy them? Let's look at the pending listings. How's demand? Demand's up. Demand's up a little bit where you are. So maybe people bought these homes, but active inventory is falling. Fewer sellers are actually taking the homes off the market. That means that the people on the market remaining probably need to sell and are willing to negotiate. Let's look at prices. How are those doing? Down, look at this, down 0.8% for the typical house in Sacramento. You've been down for months. What is your typical house worth, your single family house? $591,000 for Sacktown. That's off about $4,000 from last year. Your peak in Sacramento was $638,000. So you've lost some value in Sacktown, no doubt about it. Now you're just kind of drifting sideways right now, but the peak of the housing market for you back in July of 2022, look at that, $638,000, but you've lost value. You've lost value. So if you bought in any time period through this, basically, right, after 2022, mid 2022 in Sacramento, you may have lost some value on your home, probably didn't gain a lot, just kind of stagnant. Remember, it takes 8% approximately to sell a home. So, you could be, in trouble if you're trying to sell. And, could be people on the market right now in Sacramento trying to sell a house, not as many delistings. And let's look at price cuts. Let's look at that real quick. What's going on with price cuts? Remember, drop your zip code below and I will get to it. Super chats, by the way, moved up right to the front of the line. Let me just look for... price reductions. 23% of all sellers cutting their price in Sacramento. So definitely some price cuts. Definitely. And look what that rate spike did back in 2022. 31% of all sellers were cutting their price in 2022. When those rates spiked, literally, this was like the peak of your housing market in Sacramento. Pretty interesting. The peak of price cuts, the peak of prices, period. Wow. But it's like, if you really look at this pricing, Sacramento's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's kind of stabilized with prices. Look at this again. As we go, you're just kind of going sideways right now. So you're not, it's not like the end of the world or anything. Okay. Let's take some zip codes if anybody has one. Anybody have one? Let's see. My home in 75043 is pending. I'm looking to buy in 75098. Can you please provide analysis there? Sure. I'll do that one. And give me a thumbs up if you come on. I appreciate it. Get more people involved, more zip codes to, to analyze. All right. 75098. Let's do it. Whoops. So you had a growth of delisted properties. By the way, let me just go back to you. JQ, 75043 is where it's pending. That's where you're selling, and you're buying in 75098. Well, good job getting your house in contract at least. That's a good thing. 67 homes were delisted. And that's as of May 2026. If we look at last year, it was 48. So where you're looking to buy, it looks like more people have yanked their homes off the market. Again, as a buyer, that's good news for you. Because that just takes off the people that are not willing to negotiate, that are like probably delusional, right? They've left their homes on the market for a while. Now they're like, oh, well, I'll just take it off. So it's good that, that happened. Look, what about price reductions? Wow, look at that. Look at that, JQ. Goodness gracious. 40% of sellers are cutting their price. 40%. That's a lot. It's 4 out of 10 homes are having a price cut. It's actually, it's not a record high in the last 10 years, but it's close. 75098. Just want to make sure I got the right zip code. Yeah. Good news for you as a buyer. I smell a deal so far based on what I'm looking at. And that's only the price cuts and delistings. Let's look at active inventory. How's that faring right now? What's your inventory situation? 289 homes in that zip code. And by the way, where is that? 75098. If you can put your city in too, that would help me in the future. Wiley, Texas, huh? In Collin County. Wiley, Texas. Oops. 289 homes on the market right now. Well, that's as of the end of July. 314 last year. But you definitely have more inventory than you've had in a long time. Look at this. If I go back to 2021, you only had 71 homes on the market. That was a brutal time for a buyer, right? Well, times have changed. 289 now. 289. Now let's look at median days on market. What do we got? 51. Last year, 45. So homes are taking longer to sell. So you've got more price cuts. Got nearly 40% of all sellers cutting their price. You have fewer people removing their homes from the market. That means people need to probably sell the ones that are on the market. And you still have inventory that's growing overall compared to the last, several years. And homes are taking longer to sell. So as a buyer, those are all good things. Those are all good things. Let's look at prices. Wow, look at that. Prices down 6%. 6% right now. Year over year. And look at the change. You have to appreciate this change in home values. Look at this. We'll start in 2020, July of 2020. Look at this. Prices were growing. I mean, July of 2020, they were up 3%. Then in July of 2021, they were up 21% year over year. And then in July of 2022, they were growing nearly 30% year over year. And then you hit a wall. And that price growth stopped. And it's basically it was flat, and now it's going down and growing. That pain is growing. So prices are down, man. Wow. I wonder what the prices actually are. Now, the typical single-family value I'm looking at here is from Zillow. I know. People are like, Zillow, don't trust them, don't like them. I understand that. You may not like them, but they are a massive data provider, and it gives us an idea of the overall direction of a market. It's not, what your house will sell for. It's not what you'll pay. It's just a direction of the market. And I like them because they use the 35th to 65th percentile. They take out all the high-end houses and all the low-end houses to try to give us a sense of a typical value. I like that look. And this is what Reventure Consulting uses. This is what Resi Club uses. A lot of data analysts use Zillow. So you peaked in prices at $484,000 in 2022, similar to what we saw when we looked at Sacramento. And then look at this. Prices fell and fell and fell. Now $422,000. That's off 60 grand, 62,000 bucks. Seems to be a great time to buy there. I mean, I hate it when realtors say that, but I mean, shoot. You got prices falling, you got price cuts, you got inventory, longer days on market. I mean, look at a lot of houses. Be patient. Don't be afraid to send in a low offer. Wait for a great deal. Not a good deal, but a great deal, because it looks like you may be able to get it. Now, I can't guarantee that, but man, I don't know what you did on your sale. Hopefully it sells and closes at a price that makes sense, and you can roll that equity into your next purchase. Maybe that's what you're doing, but it looks like there's an opportunity here. It does. So, well done. Hopefully that helped. If it did, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the Housing Nerd too. All right, next one. E. Samuelson, 33974. Do me a favor, guys. Drop in the city as well, because I like to just know where these places are. I don't have every zip code memorized, even though I look at a lot of zip codes. You think I would have most of them memorized by now. But, and then also put in if you're buying or selling or you're investing, like what's going on. Even if it's not immediate, even if you're like, oh, I'm going to buy in a year or sell in a year, whatever. I just like to understand it. Helps frame the analysis. All right, 33974. Lehigh Acres, Florida. Great. Let's do it. 33974. Down to Florida. So we went from Texas to Florida. Let me just move this. All right. What do we got for delistings? How many sellers are yanking their home? Look at that. 132 this year. Last year, 97. So more sellers delisting their home. That's good. It means it's clearing out the chaff, the people that weren't even serious. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything as a seller normally to list a home. So a lot of people are just listing it to test the market, kick the tires, whatever you want to call it. And that is pretty much the worst strategy you can have as a seller, because once you list your house, by the way, on the market, everybody knows you listed it. Then it's like there's no hiding. So that's a horrible strategy. If you ever hear somebody say you should test the market. I heard somebody say that once, a housing analyst, and she's a good analyst, but she's like, oh, you should just try, I would recommend all people who think about selling, just go ahead and test the market. She's not a realtor. She's never done it before. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's a horrible idea. If you're not serious about selling, don't bother. But people are taking their home off the market in Lehigh, Florida. Let's look at price cuts. 15% of the market, of your market, your zip code, cutting prices. 15% last year, 22%. So you still have some price cuts, but it's not as high as it was last year. It could be because the people that are really like figuring it out are just taking their home off the market because your delistings are up, no doubt. Let's look at inventory, active inventory count. What do we got? 424 homes on the market right now. Last year, 488. You actually lost inventory in Florida. I'm seeing this throughout Florida. This is nothing new. I'm seeing a lot of areas of Florida where inventory is falling. Could be because of delistings. Could be. But here's the other nuance. If people are delisting, those people don't need to sell. They're not desperate. So it's not distress. It's not like a bunch of foreclosures. It's not like, oh, I have to sell or my home's going to be foreclosed on. Otherwise, they wouldn't remove it from the market. And you have fewer homes on the market than you did last year. What? That's true. You do. What about days on market? How long is it taking to sell a home in Lehigh, Florida? 89. Last year, 74. Homes are rotting. Wow. Look at that. It's taking a lot longer to sell a home this year than last year. And it's taking nearly 90 days to put a home in contract. So did you tell me what you're doing? Are you buying or selling? Did you say? Oops, my bad. That's the wrong one. I don't see where you said. You didn't say if you're buying or selling. That's okay. I'd prefer you put that in there, but you didn't. So at the end of the day, if you're selling, expect it's going to take 90 days to put a home in contract. Expect that. It may not. It may take longer. It may take less. But don't think it's going to go into contract in a week. And then when it doesn't, you're like, I can't believe it. The nerd told you. The data told you. By the way, this is all Realtor.com data hosted by Resi Club. Shout out to Lance Lambert. And it's all free data. You can download all this yourself if you wanted to. Let's look at prices. Wow, look at that. Just like where we looked at last time in Wiley, Texas. Now we're looking at Lehigh, Florida, down 6% in prices year over year. Prices are falling. Look at that. In 2022, if you remember in Texas, we were looking at prices were up 30% in 1 year. In Lehigh, Florida, they were up in 2022, they were up 40%, 40%, which is obviously not sustainable, right? Obviously not sustainable. And it wasn't, because that price growth fell, and now it's negative price growth or negative growth, however you want to say it. Let's look at the prices, the typical price now. Typical single family value, look at that, 285. You peaked at 330, 333, around there, 334. Now 285. $45,000 off the price right now. That's where it's fallen to. So, I mean, if you bought in this time period here at all, in this peak, you were suffering if you want to sell, right? I mean, you're not suffering if you don't need to sell. And you're just like, well, whatever, I'll just wait. But like, prices are falling there. I mean, how much are you down versus, I'm just curious, how much are you down since 2022? Down 6% since 2022. But look at this. This is interesting. So from an appreciation standpoint, if you go back to March of 2020, Lehigh is still up 60%. So it kind of puts it in perspective, right? Like, unless you bought in the last just few years, your home value is probably okay. But I would say if you're selling, you better price that home right. Or you better have something extraordinary that others don't. Still, you got to price it right. And be patient. And if you're buying, looks like you have the opportunity, just like the guy did in Wiley, just like JQ did in Wiley. So hopefully that helped. E. Samuelson, give me a thumbs up if it did. I appreciate you suggesting it, though. What's up, AZ Home Seller? Folks, this is Lisa Davis. She's in Kingman, Arizona. If you need a house in Kingman, reach out to Lisa Davis. Trying to do my morning show thing. All right, what's next? Galveston. I had another request for Galveston. Let's look at Galveston, 77550. Galveston, Texas, right there on the water, right? Add a handle to continue. Listen, look, these YouTube names drive me nuts. Okay, I try my best. Add a handle to continue. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. When I say it out loud, I sound like a complete moron, but whatever. I'm not hiding anything today. All right, delistings in Galveston, Texas, 71. That's it, delistings. So 71 people removed their home from the market this year. Last year, 95. So you have fewer delistings. Last year was the peak, it looks like. Who knows if that'll change, but let's look at price cuts. Only 15% of people cutting their price. Not a ton. Last year was 21. You go back into 2023, you had 27% of sellers cutting their price. You still do have price cuts, but it's not, most of the market. It's not 40% like we saw. Where was that? In Wiley, Texas. It was 40%, I think. Let's look at active inventory. Where's that? Active inventory, 347. Folks, you have to understand this metric. If you're going to understand one metric about the housing market, focus on active inventory where you live. That will tell you the story. Right now, you have fewer homes on the market than you did last year. Prices will lag inventory and demand, the supply and demand metric. Prices will lag that. So as supply increases exponentially and demand, if it doesn't increase as well, prices will start to come down after that. Conversely, if inventory falls and demand picks up, then you should see prices actually rise. But in your situation, you have delistings and you have You have fewer homes on the market. So maybe that's because sellers actually yanked the inventory. But if demand's there, there's just fewer homes to choose from. Home prices year over year down, just like Florida and just like Wiley, Texas, down 6%. Look at that. You've had a lot of price pain over the past year, a lot of price pain. People just overpaid for homes, it looks like. They literally just overpaid for homes. Typical value, $280,000. This is very close to what we were looking at just now, or a little while ago in Wiley. The peak was right around here, 330, 334, right? Now 280. Now 280. So prices are not, I mean, they're not doing well where you are in Galveston. I mean, you see continued price decline. When will it stop? We don't know. We don't know. Wow. Thanks for suggesting that one. I love looking at the Texas markets. And if I help you at all, if you get any knowledge, even if you're just listening to another zip code, just give me a thumbs up. And share the video. Share it with someone else while we're in the live stream. That'll help other people get involved. 33402, please. Healthy Pulse. Where's that? Let's look. 33402. Is that it? 33402. 33402. Doesn't like my zip code. Must be a small zip code. 33402. Yeah, where is that? Give me a city, like a major city around you or a county. That'll help me because this date ain't pulling up. Try the next one. A. Jackins. Hey, what's up? Ohio, huh? 43116. I do have an all Ohio channel. I don't know if you come on there or not, but I encourage you to. I'll do the live there tomorrow. 43116. What's happening? It ain't liking this one either. I don't know. I'm going to try another one. I'll come back to you maybe. Commercial Point, 43116. Yeah, it's just not liking that one. I'll come back. What's up, Alito, Texas Twins? How you doing? Yeah, hit the like button. I appreciate it. 43116. I'll try it again. Let me try it. Sometimes it's just not wanting to cooperate with me. Let me try to reload Resi Club here. Nope, it's not liking it. I don't know what's going on. Give me the county. I don't think Commercial Point will come up for me. No, it's not. So do me a favor and just give me the county. And let's see if I can go that way. Oh, you want to look at foreclosures. Okay. If I was in the market, I would wait till next year at least. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it helps to wait. No argument there. But timing the bottom of a market, a housing market, very hard. And almost impossible. Timing the top's impossible too. So I think you pick your target, you set your goals, and then you go find that. And when you find it, you find it. If you don't find it, you don't find it. That's how I look at it. And that's what I do as an investor. 54915, Appleton, Wisconsin. Yeah, okay. 54915. Yeah, I'll definitely look at that one. I spent some time in Appleton for sure. And Stevens Point, if you know where that is. Forecast. Let me just look at delistings here. How many delistings do we have? Only 4. 54915, right? That's your zip code? Yeah. So I'm going to have to come out to a county level look. There's just not enough data where you are. Well, there's nothing going on in your county either. Goodness gracious. But could just be too small of a market. Let me see. Let's look at active inventory. No, it's not too small of a market. You just don't have any delistings. Holy cow, look at that. 4. Only 4 people took their home off the market. That's a good market for a seller, right? Price reduction share, just 12% of sellers are cutting their price. That's not a lot at all. So not a lot of price cuts there. Not a lot of delistings. It looks just like a market completely different than what we saw in Texas, right? Active inventory count, 94. You do have a lot more inventory than last year, though. Look at this. Last year, you had 35. This year, 94. What? Inventory just took off like a rocket where you are. A lot of people decided to put their home on the market there. Are homes rotting? Are they sitting? Let's look. No, they're moving. People are actually buying homes. Delistings are down. So people aren't removing homes. People are buying homes. It's taking quick. Your homes are selling quicker. You do have more homes on the market. Prices up 4%. So prices are still up 4% there in Appleton. What is the price? Let's find out. $361,000, $361,609. It's a all-time record high. Homes have never been more expensive than they are right now in Appleton, Wisconsin. You know what I mean? Look at that. Compare this market of Appleton to what we were looking at in Texas. Night and day. Night and day. Remember, real estate's local. Obviously, that's why we're doing this. Okay, so 361. Now, let's do, I'm just curious, how much have values gone up in the last, or since 2020? Home prices, look at that, up 70% since 2020. 70%. In the last 10 years, how much have homes gone up? 118% in Appleton in the last 10 years. And you said you were selling 54915 and 54169. Let's look at 54169. And you're buying there. So you're selling. It looks to me like you had a good opportunity there. I don't have any data for that zip code. Sorry. It's not giving me that. Maybe it has active inventory count. Let's look. Yeah, it does. 54169. There's only 17 homes for sale, though. Very small market. Not going to be able to tell a lot by that, except to tell you that you do have more homes on the market. At one point you only had 1 home in 2023. Now there's 17. So there is more to choose from. But a small sampling size like that's going to be really hard to analyze, unfortunately. I can tell you have more homes on the market. But when you look at the zip code where you're selling, looks like, sellers are still in control, I would say. So good news for you if you're for what you're trying to do. All right. What's up, all-nighter? Hey, I got my ticket to Vegas. So I booked it. My kid's coming with me. And should be fun, man. Looking forward to meeting you. My investment market, Gary, Indiana, 46407. Yeah, 46407. Let's do it. Happy to do it, all-nighter. You guys don't know who All Nighter is. This dude is all over the place on YouTube. Specifically, housing, investment type channels. But let me do delistings first. 12. You only got 12 delistings. You buy single family homes all nighter? Is that what you're after? Are you after anything, duplexes, or like what's your kind of buy box look like? I'm curious. 12 delistings, that's it. So how many homes do you actually have on the market? Let me find out, because that'll tell us. 63. 46407. Just want to double check the zip code. 4647. Yeah. Gary, Indiana. Yeah, look at this. You had 63 homes on the market at the end of July. Last year, 34. This is a 10-year high in that zip code. A 10-year high of inventory all-nighter. I mean, the trend is clear. A lot more houses to pick from. Good news for you, right? Good news for you as an investor. Let's look at median days on market. 85. Wow. Look at that. You went from 36 to 85 days on market. Maybe I should go there and invest. Goodness gracious. Like, homes taking a lot longer to sell. More houses to buy. That's all good news for you. I mean, the trajectory is in the right direction as an investor or a buyer at all in Gary, Indiana. What about prices? How much are homes there? Down 0.3% right now. They were down, every month this year they've been down. Every month. So prices have definitely fallen. And look at that, how they were up and down, up and down. Shoot, man, you were growing home prices 32%, 33% back in 2018. That's a roller coaster. Just up, down, up, down, up, down. Way different than we see in some other markets where it's just, you saw the great financial crisis where prices were down, but then they kind of just continued to slide upwards and then really go up. During COVID, you're like up, down, up, down. In fact, what is your appreciation since 2020? Still 60% home appreciation since 2020. That's 6 years ago. That's average of 10% a year. That's high, right? That's a lot, even though prices are dropping right now. What's your single family value? $57,000. Oh my gosh. I had to check myself. Look at that. $57,000 for a single family house in the 35th to 65th percentile. Jeez. I mean, I guess it's easy to have 60% appreciation when homes are only 57 grand. I don't mean to laugh, but I'm like, wow, that's shocking, right? 57. I expected like 110 or 120,000. 57,000 is low. People probably watch this later and go, "What in the world?" And you live in California, don't you? You can't buy you can't even buy can't buy anything in California for $57,000. Huh. Anyway, thanks for suggesting that one. I appreciate it. Hey, what's up, Lisa? Howdy to you. Do you think this is temporary dip in the market, or is this the start of the slide like 2008 through 2012? So great question. It all comes down to inventory. It all comes down to inventory. If I look at this, I'll show you. It's a great question. Data. Here you go. So to answer your question, look at inventory. Right now, this right here is the active listings, according to Redfin. 1,470,000 active listings on the market. Homes for sale. Is that a weekly check on their end? Yeah, that's a weekly check. So as of the latest data, this is just as of this week, there are approximately 1.5 million homes on the market active for sale, according to Redfin. If you go back to, let's say, 2019, there were 1,736,000 homes on the market. Now, I don't have it on this chart, but if you look historically, during the 2008, around 2009, we had 4 million homes for sale. 4 million homes. So when you go from 4 million to 1.5 million, forget the 1.7 million we had in 2018, but just think about the difference of a market when you take away that much supply. You take away 2.5 million homes from the market that are available to purchase. Not homes that exist, but homes that are on the market. So is this the beginning of 2008? No, not again. Not yet. Not at all. I mean, you could see a dip of 2%, 3% in prices by the end of this year. Maybe that's what the data reflects nationally. I'm talking national now. But man, you'd have to have a lot of forced selling. People that are desperate to sell. Like, I have to sell or I'm doomed. And to get that, you need a mechanism for that in the economy. Like, people can't afford their houses at all anymore, including the people that have 4.5% mortgage rates right now. So there's a lot of differences between right now and 2008. Probably one of the bigger ones is a lot of people have fixed rate mortgages. And the loans that people were using back then in 2008, they're illegal now. Like, you can't go to a bank and get a conventional loan where it's a teaser rate. They had those in 2008 where you kind of pick your payment. I can pick a payment that for this month that is just my interest. I could pick one that is my interest in principal, or I could pick one that's the lowest, which doesn't even pay the interest. They had those products then. They don't exist now. So structurally, it's completely different. And we just don't have the inventory yet. If you see this number, Jay, if you see this number, by the way, cool beamer. If you see the 1.5 million listings spike to 2 million, to 2.5 million, then you're going to start to see some pain. And you can pay attention to the same thing in your housing market. Now, would prices drop 20% in your local housing market? They could. Look at the markets we've already looked at today. Many of them have been dropping months and months and months. Some of them are down, 10% over the last few years. So locally, it could be worse, but on a national basis, you got to have more inventory. You just do. And you'll hear people tell you, and then I'll get to the next zip code. But I want to caution you, Jay. You'll hear people explain on YouTube that there are shadow listings. There's a shadow market where there's a bunch of people that can't sell their home, but they're listed in the shadows somewhere. Well, I got news for you. If you need to sell your home, you are going to list it everywhere. You're not going to keep it in the shadows. And those people know that that's false, right? You're not going to keep your home in the shadows if you need to sell it. Are there homes that are sold off market? Absolutely. Are there homes that are listed off market? Absolutely. But if you need to sell, you're going to do everything you can to sell it. You're going to drop flyers from airplanes. You're going to run down the street yelling that you have a house for sale. You're going to put a sign in the yard. You're going to put it on Facebook. You're going to have it on the MLS, on Zillow, because you need to sell it. So my thing is, until you see people in mass needing to sell their homes, a major crash is unlikely. Anyway, great question. Next. Hey, Samuelson, you are welcome. Thank you for coming on. Oh, look at this. JQ, what up? I already did your analysis. You're welcome, JQ. And I appreciate the super chat. Very nice of you. Hey, I really, seriously, man, very nice of you. All right. 80019. Yep. Let's do it. 80019. Colorado. And that was Denver, right? Denver, Colorado. I love Denver. Feels like a little Ohio. I'm sorry, a big Ohio, like a big Columbus. My bad. Big Columbus is what it feels like. A lot of nice people there. 30 delistings right now. Last year, 22 delistings. People yanking their home off the market more than they did last year. Now, what I should be showing you is this, the share of delistings. That's what I'll start showing people. My bad. So the share of delistings, this gives us a better perspective. 7% of all listings are being yanked. 7%. Is that a lot? Nationally, it's 5 or 6, or I'm sorry, like 5.5. So you're at 7. It's higher than the national average. So you do have more people than the national average taking their home off the market. Now let's look at price reductions. Are people slashing their price? 24% of the time, sellers are cutting. You haven't seen that level unless you go back to 2019. So you definitely have more people cutting their price. So you got sellers removing their listings. You've got people cutting their prices. That all is good news if you're a buyer, no doubt. Median days on market. How long is it taking to sell a home? 66 days. Last year, 56 days. Homes are sitting longer. All good news if you are a buyer. All good news. What about prices? Down 4.3%. Notice what we're seeing. I mean, every market we've looked at today, except, which one was it? Wisconsin. Prices have been down. Prices have been down. Now, Jay, the last person that asked a question about the housing crash. Watch this. Let's look at, we forgot to look at this. Let me look at active inventory. How many homes are on the market? Wow. So going back to our lesson about 2008, this market in Denver, 80019. Look at inventory, 144 listings. Last year, 129. Year before that, 100. Year before that, 53. 28, 16. So in 2021, you only had 16 listings. Remember that. And now it's 144 listings in the market. Now let's look at prices and see what happened. And you'll see what I mean, Jay. Look at prices. Right as you had an extremely low level of inventory, when that inventory was low at only a handful of listings, price, the typical home in 80019 was selling for $591,000, right? Now you have a nearly, nearly a 10-year high of inventory of homes for sale. And look, $518,000. This is a great example of what inventory does. So AZ, you're the one that asked about Denver. I would say you definitely have price decline. You've got more homes for sale. You've got more price cuts, taking longer to sell a home. I mean, you're off $70,000. And on a $600,000 home, that's meaningful. In fact, how much have you dropped since, I'm curious, how much have you dropped since 2022? Let's look. Look at this, 12%. Prices are down 12% in Denver, in this zip code, since 2022. So, again, going back to our lesson on 2008, more inventory will cause prices to fall unless demand, can absorb that. When people say the cure for high prices is high prices, they don't know what they're talking about. They just like to say that because it sounds good. But the cure for high prices is more supply. That's the cure for high prices. When you overload the market with supply, buyers have choices, sellers have competition. Buyers start to feel like, the FOMO's gone. This is the FOMO killer right here, is inventory. So prices are down where you are, man. And they look like they keep falling. Another good market to maybe get a deal in, right? In other words, pick your target, pick your goals, say, this is what I want to pay for a house. This is what my budget is, my affordable, comfortable budget, not your max budget, what you're approved for, but your safe budget. And then go out and find the house and keep looking. Make a lot of offers. Make offers that make sense to you, not the seller. Who cares what they want? Not your decision, right? You don't care what they want. You just want a deal. You want what you want. That's great. Thanks for suggesting it. Look at this one. Annalyn, 84660, Spanish Fork, Utah. I don't get many requests for Utah, so let's do it. 84660. Yeah. Give me a thumbs up if I'm helping you. Share it with someone else. While we're in the live stream, really helps. YouTube's funky, right? 84660. It is in Utah. Where in Utah, though? I mean, I know you told me your city. I'm just kind of curious if I get an overview of Utah. Okay. Part of Provo. Got it. Part of Provo. That's what I was kind of curious about. So in 84660, you have delistings, no doubt. Look at this. Last year, 41. This year, 71. Sellers yanking their house from the market. Again, what does that mean? Means that a lot of those folks didn't need to sell. They're like, I don't want to sell right now. I don't need to. I want to sell. I don't need to sell. So I'll put it on at some stupid price. And then instead of coming down to a price that makes sense for a buyer to actually buy, they just yank it from the market. A lot of times they will put it back on as the same price, like the next day sometimes. I'm sure you all have seen that, right? It's like, what are you doing? That's not going to change anything, or they'll change realtors. Like the realtor is going to make it all of a sudden sell for the same price. Wrong. And it's 17%. That's high. Look at that. 17% of all listings are being yanked, taken off the market. Sellers giving up. Nationally, it's only 5%. So you're at 17, much higher than the national average. And it's been growing for years now. You've had that delisting growing. Let's look at price reductions. 24% of all sellers cutting their price. So, I mean, nationally, it's in the teens, I believe. So you're at 24%. That's a 10-year high of price cuts. So you have people yanking their homes from the market. You got price cuts. What about days on market? And this is all so far, a lot of these markets look like great markets to go find a deal in. No doubt. Median days on market, 55. Okay, homes are moving a little faster. So again, could be a function of those people removing their houses, so the ones that are left are willing to negotiate. They're obviously cutting prices, buyers like that, right? Active inventory, wow, 237. Last year, 205. You've got a 10-year high of homes for sale. That would seem to be a pretty good buyer's market. Now, prices lag a lot of data, so it'll be interesting to see how they're acting. Home prices in I gotta remember the name of it. Spanish Fork. I was gonna say Clear Fork, but that's in Ohio. Spanish Fork. Home prices up only 1.6%. They were falling big time in 2023. Look at that. And again, like a lot of markets we looked at today, that 2022, 21 area, prices were going bonkers crazy, right? Then they dropped through the floor, and now they've kind of just bumped along sideways. What is the typical house there in Provo or Spanish Fork, Utah? Typical home price, wow, it's expensive. $524,693. They peaked at $543. So they're off about 20 grand. Is that a crash? Probably not. No, but it's not at an all-time high, and they're kind of just going sideways now, up slightly, right? So it's not a rocket ship up, although the bottom for you lately was around 2023. Prices were under 500 grand, the typical home. Now, 524, they've come back up. They have come back up. But the other indicators of your market tell me that it's probably more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. At least that's what I'm seeing in the data. So if you're selling, better price it right. Make sure it's clean. Do the free things. You can price it right for free. You can clean. You can make sure it's lit well with lighting. Be shocked how many people live in darkness. So make sure you put good lighting in. Change all the light bulbs, clean, declutter, take out any crap and junk that you don't need, and declutter the outside too. You got wood piles or, old toys or maybe a broken down car. That's in Ohio a lot, where you see a broken down car in somebody's driveway and there's weeds growing around it. They mow around it, but they don't have a weed eater, so it's just all these weeds around the edge. Get rid of that stuff. Anything that is clutter, get rid of it. And you do well. As a buyer, you probably take your time, make a lot of offers, see a lot of homes. You got inventory, all good stuff. Market's changing. Market is changing. What's next? All-nighter, what up? Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to meeting you guys, you and your son. Yep. All right. Christopher Murphy 9750. You're selling in 45410 and buying in 45387. 45410. Let's look at that one. 45410. And after I get done analyzing your market, hit the thumbs up for me if you can. It's not liking some of these zip codes. It must be a small zip code. Where is that? 45. It's in Dayton in Montgomery County. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to move to another one because I'll do this. If you come back tomorrow during the Ohio live stream about noon or so, just for Ohio only, I'll do yours. Just jump on early and get it in. I just wanted to spend this time on people that are outside of Ohio because I can't probably go for 2 hours that I usually do today. I've got to go look at a couple properties. So anyway, come on tomorrow, okay? Christopher Murphy, and I will look at that one. I have an Ohio-specific data set that I use. Pine Sap, Michigan. Is that right? Pine Sap MI, 49445. Michigan. Wow. You only have 1% of your listings are being delisted. Only 1%. Sellers are not removing their homes from the market. Look at the difference in these markets. Price reduction share, 21% of all sellers are cutting their price. I wonder, though, how big that market is. How big is that market? 53. Okay. So you have 53 homes total, but nobody's delisting. Not many price cuts, right? Let me go back to the price cuts again. I don't want to speak. I don't remember. Oh, 21%. So decent amount of price cuts. 1 out of 5 are cutting their price. And it's higher than you've had really going all the way back to 2017. So more people cutting their price, but people aren't delisting yet. However, when I look at the active inventory, look at that, 53. So last year you had 36. So you have more homes for sale. That's all good stuff, right? As a buyer, more homes for sale. Or what you're selling in that market, aren't you? Let me see if I'm getting this right. No, you didn't say that. Okay. Forget that. I don't know if you're buying or selling, but if you're buying, you have more options to choose from, more price cuts. Good. That all helps. Let's look at days on market. 44 last year, 39. Homes taking longer to sell. All that points in the favor of buyers. It doesn't mean you're going to get 50% off. It just means that there's some leverage there as a buyer. That's all. Prices, where are they? Up 5.5% though. So sellers may just be still getting what they're asking for a house. I mean, your prices are still growing at 5.5%. Maybe this will change now that you have more inventory and some price cuts, but sellers aren't walking away because there aren't many delistings. They're not just yanking their home. How much are homes there? $301,000. If I round up, $302,000. That's an all-time record high. All-time record high for pine sap. I'm guessing that's where you are. 49445. Muskegon, Michigan. Sorry. I thought maybe Pine Sap was your town. Muskegon, Michigan is your town. But it's an all-time record high in Muskegon, Michigan. 49445. Michigan's a tough market. It's sticky with prices. I mean, how much are you up in prices since 2020? 60%. Nuts, right? Again, that's like if you do, just dumb, math, 6 years, 60%, 10% a year approximately. And it's still growing. You're still growing prices right now. So you probably do have some more leverage. You have more leverage as a buyer probably, but it's not, you're not going to walk in and get the deal of your dreams. Probably, right? Unless you really negotiate, probably look off market. All right, who's next? If I helped, give me a thumbs up. Packet Watchdog, what up? 75078, Prosper, Texas. Are we going to prosper there as a buyer or seller? Seven 75078. 75078. Let's do it. Share of delistings, 10%. Last year it was 10%. So that ain't very high. I mean, sorry. That is high. That's double what the national average is. National's like 5.5. So it's not high compared to last year. It's the same. But compared to nationally, you have more people taking their home off the market. They're disgruntled. They're going to go home with their toys. 33% of all sellers cutting their asking price. Wow. Yeah. It's lower than last year, Packet. I mean, last year was 37. But still, nearly a third, basically a third of all sellers cutting their price. I almost said buyers. All sellers cutting their price. Now, how long on the market? Are homes sitting longer? Yeah, 58 days compared to 53 days. That's a 5-day spread. So homes are sitting longer. Again, probably another buyer's market more than a seller's market, I imagine. Active inventory count. Yeah, 439 active listings last year, 372. The year before that, 296. And in 2023, you had 192. You go back to 2021, you only had 54 homes on the market. 54. Now 439. Now it's not it's not a 10-year high of inventory, but you're getting there. You're getting there. I can like smell the deal. I can smell the discount from from the data. I mean, I would have to think, I don't live there, but I would have to think if you're in a market like this, you're going, wow, I've got a lot of choices. I got a lot of choices. Yeah, days on market, everything is is up. What about prices? Look at that, down 6%, no surprise. Again, we talked about 2008 earlier, right, folks? 2008. Somebody asked, Jay, I think asked, well, is this 2008 through 2012? No, it's not overall nationally. But in a lot of these markets like this, it don't look good. I mean, I don't have the 2008 price data in here. It's not giving it to me, but inventory, folks, is the catalyst and forced sellers. And it looks like there are forced sellers here in this market. I mean, at one point, you were growing home prices over 40% per year. 40%. That is done for. Those days are long gone. Those days are long gone. Typical single family value, $745,000. That's a pricey Texas market. Your peak, though, look at your peak, $854,000. Ah, yeah. So you peaked in 2022, probably when inventory was non existent. And then you went back up for a second to 820, but now you're falling at 744. I mean, prices are off there nearly 100 grand off an $800,000 house. The typical home. That's big price decline. That is big price decline. What about rents there? I do have rents in here. Let me see if we know. I'm just kind of, that's a big price difference. So I'm curious what rents are doing. Rents are down like $100, no, not even $100, $50 a month. They haven't really gone anywhere. Down slightly since 2022, but it's not like they're crashing. So if you're a buyer, if you're a renter, you could probably get a discount. Certainly if you're a buyer. That was a great one to look at. Thanks, Packet Watchdog. Great pick. Great pick. What up, Lisa? Yeah. 86409. We'll look at that one. Lisa is a realtor in Kingman, Arizona. Share of homes delisted. 6%, about the national average. So about 6% of all sellers have cut or have taken their home off the market. Let's look at price reductions. 20%, it's nearly 20. It's about nearly average for the U.S. So it's not insane amount, although last year was only 15%, this year's 19%. Let me know, as a realtor, you see more price cuts? I'd love the little, maybe it takes you a couple messages to plug into the chat, but I'd like to know what you're seeing, especially with your clients. Are you seeing demand still low? I don't know. Let's look and see if we can identify what the data shows. What about median days on market? Homes sitting longer? 67. Yeah, last year 59. So homes are taking longer to sell, according to this data. You tell me what you're seeing. But this is it's not a 10-year high of days on market, but it's getting there. Homes taking longer. You do have price cuts. You do have delistings, right? An inventory count. Yeah, 122 right now at the end of July, 118 last year. So you got more homes. This is actually a 10-year high of homes for sale in Kingman, a 10-year high. More homes, more opportunity for buyers. Look at this. Back in 2021, you only had 34 houses on the market. 34. Now, 122. Again, inventory, folks. Inventory is the key. Now, prices. Look at this. Prices are still up there 3.2% year over year. They don't look like they've fallen that much, actually. So maybe, eventually buyers come to the table. I don't know. You tell me, since you're a realtor there, but $266,000 is the typical home value. The peak was 269. So you're not off the peak that much. It's not like what we saw in Texas where people were off, 10, 15% from their peak, or, you're off, $3,000. That's it. Prices don't look like they're collapsing. They just look kind of stagnant, but they're not collapsing. What about the condo value? Where's that? I don't have that data. They don't provide the data for that zip code. Yeah. It's just kind of going sideways somewhat, although it's still up positive. There were only a few months where you were down, only a few months. But yeah, let me know what you're seeing out there. And thanks for joining us. Utah County. Yep, I did that one. Peter McLaughlin, 5334. You're just jelly. You're not the one that can afford to buy the state of Ohio. Buy the state of Ohio? I don't know what that means, sir. Don't come to Ohio. There's no law enforcement. The drunks and drug addicts are running amok. I don't know, man. Actually, I would disagree with Peter. I hope you come to Ohio. I invite people to come here. I think Ohio is a great state. I love it. And I've lived in other states. I've traveled all around the U.S., been to every state, most major cities. I like Ohio. 97527. Have to sell in less than 60 days. 8 acres ranch. Wow. 2,000 square feet. How aggressive should I be on price? Desirable location near town, but no traffic. Private grant pass. Sounds nice. 97527. Why do you have to sell in 60 days? 97527. 97527. Oregon. Grant Pass, Oregon, huh? 97527. Let me just double check your zip. I mean, okay, so you have to sell in the next 60 days or need to sell. Same thing, I guess. 6% of all sellers where you are delisting their home. So, that's about national. So you're not, it's not a ton of sellers that are going, I'm out of here and walking away. Not even 1 out of 10. Let's look at price reductions. 26% of all sellers have cut their price. So that is a little high compared to national numbers. In the last few years, you had over 30% of sellers cutting their price. But the real thing to look at if you are selling would be the median days on market. That's really what you want to know about. And then inventory, how that's doing. Median days on market, 66, last year 70. Homes are selling a little quicker this year than last year. Jeff. But this would mean that, hey, if you list your home, it may take 60 days to get it in a contract. So if you've got to sell and close in the next 60 days, that's different. That's like grab a pail, Rome is burning, right? That's what that is. Because this is telling me, hey, 60 days, 66 days, median days on market. So it could take this long to actually get an offer. I'm not saying it will, but that's up compared to years during COVID, right? Where you were at 29 days, 50 days, now 66. So homes are taking a little longer to sell. Let's look at the big one though for you, and that's inventory. Yeah, so inventory, basically 200 homes on the market at the end of July. Last year, 186. Year before that, 148. Year before that, 103. Go all the way back to 2020, and it was 59 homes on the market. So inventory is a lot higher. That tells me that you have competition and homes are taking longer. There are price cuts. So let me just look at prices, and then we'll talk about your situation briefly. Prices are stagnant. They're down slightly, like 1% year over year over the last 12 months. A little bit of price growth in 2004. A lot of price decline in 2023. Again, this big spike you had during COVID, right? Everybody saw that during COVID. Massive price spike. And it wrecked the market, wrecked a lot of markets. And now you're just trying to recover, but you're just bumping along. It doesn't look like things have crashed. And you have acreage too, right? You said you had acreage. $415,000 is the typical home. Back in 2022, it was $432,000. So you haven't lost that much value there. The sky's not falling, although it does look like it's softening for a seller. So if you have a desirable place, it sounds like 8 acres would seem to be desirable. How aggressive should you be? Well, you really want to understand your local market, like a comp analysis at a local level. So if you haven't done this already, either you don't have to work with a realtor, but you can. If you don't work with a realtor, then go on Zillow and just look at what has closed. You can even use your county auditor sometimes, depending on where you live. In Ohio, you can use your county auditor and you can look at recent sales. It actually tells you. And it has a lot of detail that Zillow doesn't have. But Zillow is a quick way to do it. You could go on and just look at what comparable homes have sold around you. Now, since you're in the country, it sounds like, I know how that is. You're going to have to go out of the area a little bit, right? You may have to go out of the school district, out of the county even, to find comparable sales. But find homes that match your home as close as you can get it, as close as possible. And find, 4 or 5 comps if you can. Try to find some that have closed in the last the last 3 months. If not, use the last 6 months. If you can't do that, use the last 12 months, preferably the last 6 months max. But if you have to go to 12 months, fine. And just look at 4 or 5 comps. Be honest with yourself if your home is better than theirs, or if they have more to offer than you. And then just, again, try to find them that are as close to yours as possible. Average out the price per square foot, and then multiply it by your square footage. And that may probably get you close to what the market will bear. And then it really depends on how fast you need to sell it. If you need to close in the next 60 days, I'd be doing this work today. And then price it so it sells. So I'd be aggressive if you need to be closed in 60 days. If you need to be in contract in 60 days, still be aggressive. If you overprice the home, you will sit longer. And you could end up selling it for less. So in other words, if your home, let's pretend $400,000 is what you land on, you're like, that's where I think I should list it. Well, if you were greedy and you listed it at $425,000, you may end up with a sale price of $395,000 because buyers are going to take shots at you. And eventually you get to the point, because you need to sell, that you're like, fine, I'll just take it and you capitulate. I'll take $395,000. Whereas if you started at $400,000 and said, 400 is where I want to be, you may get an offer early at 400. So it really just depends on how motivated you are to sell. But definitely don't overprice it. That will cause it to sit longer. But good luck, man. I mean, it's a desirable location, no traffic, private, lots of acreage. 8 acres sounds like a good spot to me. Oregon's beautiful. So anyway. Yeah, I got it. Grants Pass, Oregon. Yeah. Yeah, 50 minutes. 50 minutes. Yeah. Well, no, now I'm at hour 23 minutes. So 83 minutes. What do you think's happening in 76005? Neighbor name is Veridin. Is that how you say it? Veridin in Arlington, Texas. Inventory's up and not much is selling lately. Let's look at 76005. Well, hang on. Before I get to that, I got some jewels. I still don't know what to do with these, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the jewels. I'm going to go use it and farm some wood. so that I can, build my next base. I don't know if that's what it's for, but thank you. I appreciate it. 76005. I didn't get anything there for that. 76005. Arlington. I can do Arlington, which is, let's see, Arlington, Texas. Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington. Where's 76005? Yeah, it's in Arlington in Tarrant County in Fort Worth Metroplex. Let me look at, I'll just look at Dallas, I guess, because that's really all I can look at here. So Dallas, share of delistings is 7%. Again, nationally, 5 point something. So is 7% the end of the world? No, but it does mean people are yanking their home from the market. And remember, you are going to hear, one of the things I try to do here is explain what to watch out for from a narrative end, so you're not duped into thinking that the market's something that's not. Instead of telling you a story about the market, I'm just going to show you the data. I think that's the fairest way to do it, instead of spinning a web of doom. So you will hear people who tell you that delisted homes, that sellers are angry and they're delisting their homes from the market and yanking them off, and that's a sign that we're in trouble and the housing market's going to crash. That's how they're framing it. But it really just removes the people that aren't serious to sell, and they don't need to sell. So they're not going to keep it on the market. If you need to sell, you ain't taking it off the market. So when you look at price cuts, though, that is an indication of sellers in trouble. So 28%, fair number, almost a third of all sellers cutting their price in Arlington, Texas. Median days on market, what do we got? 54, last year 53, taking about the same amount of time to sell. Go back during 2021, it was only 27 days. So homes are sitting a lot longer in Dallas. I'm really curious about inventory, because I know that it exploded, but now it's falling. Look at this. I mean, it's still a lot. 29,000, nearly 30,000 homes for sale in Dallas, Texas. Holy cow. 30,000 homes. Now, you hit a cycle low of 8,000 homes. And you peaked at last year at 32,000 homes for sale. Think about that. 32,000 homes in a metro. It's insane. There's only like 22,000 homes in the state of Ohio for sale. And Dallas alone has 32,000. 29,000 this year. So you have lost inventory. Could be delistings. Could be. But you still have a lot of inventory. You still do. Good if you're a buyer, right? Home price year over year down 3%. It's been down for months. I mean, look at the chart, the change in how this over the last few years. Look at that. It's like, woo, up. People are, YOLO, FOMO, whatever you want to call. Then that's it. It fell. And prices just down, 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 down. So what has that done to the typical home price? Let's look. Typical home value, $367,000. It was $401 at its peak, and it's fallen about $30,000. Not the end of the world, but definitely down. Definitely down. I would think you're going to have opportunities as a buyer. As a seller, you could probably still sell, but you're going to have to price it probably in a compelling way, where people look at the list and go, oh, hey, look at that house. That's priced good. You're not going to be able to be the top of the market probably. And if you try to test the top of the market, it probably ain't going to move. So one more check, and then I'll answer your question about what's happening there, because you kind of gave me some local flavor. Look at this. Since 2020, prices are only up 35% there. We looked at some markets earlier where prices were up 70% still since 2020. So, since 2020 to be up 35%, isn't like outrageous, and it's falling. It's falling right now. So you asked about inventory's up, not much selling. That's what the data shows me too. I would say you're exactly correct. Yeah, inventory is up. Definitely up in Dallas. Definitely up in Dallas. Thank you, Bruno, by the way. And if I helped you, give me the thumbs up and share it. Make sure you're subscribed. That would help me too. McConaughey, how you doing? Good to see you. How's the electric business? Took the spring off from looking, but back looking at houses again. Good. Good for you. In Reno, right? I hope it's doing well. I hope you're doing well. Josh Hall, I did Sacramento earlier. I did that earlier. So you can rewind it or however you want to do it. But yeah, I did that earlier. I'll timestamp all the zip codes and cities. I always do. So after I'm done, I'll do the timestamps and you can jump to it. But I already did it. Back in the market trying to buy. Okay. Yeah, check out the Sacramento one I did. Oh, you guys are talking about your market. Reno. Yeah, McConaughey. Let's look at Reno. Haven't looked at that one in a while. Good to see you, by the way. Reno, Nevada. The biggest little city, right? I don't have any delisting data for Reno. Redfin, I guess, doesn't provide it. That data is from Redfin. So, yeah, not available. But active inventory is. I know that's available. So I'll run through my normal thing here with inventory and days on market. So inventory count, 1,400 homes on the market. Last year, 1,900 homes. Wow. Why they don't have delisting data, I don't know. But, I mean, you've lost 500 homes. That's a lot when you only have 2,000. You lost a quarter of all your inventory. Yeah, you lost a quarter of all your inventory. Goodness gracious. Median days on market. What do we got? 50. Last year, 51. Homes were taking about the same amount of time to sell, McConaughey, but, you know, and they're up from the days in 2021 where it was 29 days to sell. But you do have fewer choices as a buyer. Surprising inventory fell that much. Let me look at price cuts. Price reduction share. 21% of all listings had a price cut. About normal. About normal. Look at back in 22, you had 35% of sellers cutting their price. That's when people were like slashing. Let's look at prices. What are prices doing there? Not much, just basically flat right now. You're not growing, not shrinking overall. By the way, anybody who wants to think about or hears that, hey, it's 2008 all over again. Look back in 2008, what was happening in McConaughey's market in Reno, Nevada. This is insane. Prices were falling. In July of 2009, prices were down 25% year over year. What? 25% down in prices. That was a crash, folks. Reno got wrecked during the great financial crisis. I mean, completely wrecked. I mean, you could see it accelerate the decline of prices. And I wish I had inventory to show you what happened during this period of time. I don't have it. Realtor.com doesn't provide the data. Redfin doesn't provide the data. Nobody has the data. I've checked with everybody. Very hard to get local inventory data. I have the national info, but prices were crashing then. Right now, they're just kind of hanging out sideways. Again, you probably need more inventory, right? And you're losing it. You're losing it. Typical single family value, 583. The peak was 600 back in 2022. So they're down 17%. So I got to think, even though your inventory is down, McConaughey, year over year, I got to think there's going to be a point. I got to think there are sellers out there that are still willing to play ball. You know, it's not like you've lost all your inventory, although, you know, could be a lot of sellers just aren't willing to list right now. They're like, I don't need to sell, so I'm not going to. I'll wait for better days. So I'd say your market probably still, it probably slightly favors sellers still. That's what it looks like, but it's not much power. Probably more of a balanced market. Which is better than a seller being in control of everything, right? Thanks for checking in, dude. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome, Lisa. Yeah, Josh, I did Sacramento earlier, so yeah, just check that one out. Look at that. Move from Oklahoma City to 86409 Kingman, Arizona. Well, reach out to Lisa. Lisa Davis maybe can help you find a home there. And she's always on the live stream, so you know she looks at data. Demand is low. Good time to buy there, Lucky. I'm hunting home buyers. Yeah, I would think you would. Yep. Do you have a YouTube channel? You should start one if you don't have one. Maybe you do. Start one. I do get leads from my Ohio channel, even from this national one I do. I help people all the time. I've got some listings from it, help some buyers. I'm working with some buyers right now from YouTube. Unlike northern states, I think we have the opposite moving effect. People in AZ would rather move in the spring and fall instead of 100-degree summer heat. Yeah. Hey, you're welcome. Sorry, man. Sorry to hear that, dude. But I wish you luck. I really do. And again, if you need to sell, price it accordingly. So working with a realtor is not a bad idea. I would interview several if you aren't already. I would interview several. Don't interview just one. Adventure Guru 5678. I'll do a couple more and then I'm out for the day. Unless anybody, let me look back down here. Yeah. 85364. Where's that? 85364. Oh, this is Yuma County. We were kind of just over there, weren't we? 85364. It's all right. We'll look at Yuma County. 85364. Do we have any data there? Yeah, we do. We see about delistings. 9% of all sellers removed their house from the market. Last year, 11%. So sellers are still taking their house off the market. I mean, again, nationally, it's 5 point something. So you're at 9. It's like almost double the national average. It's still not even 1 out of 10, though, right? Still not even 1 out of 10. Price reductions, though, 20%, decent amount, 1 out of 5 are cutting their price. So you'd have people cutting their price. Now let's look at inventory. Oh, let me do days on market first. Days on market, 46. Last year, 48. Homes moving just a little faster. That's actually not that bad, 46 days. It's not. It's not horrible. But it's less than it's less than what you've historically had. I mean, you go back before 2019, homes were taking 60 days to sell. So they're still going into contract, it seems like, in a normal amount of time. And inventory, look at this, 139 homes on the market. Last year, 128. So you are gaining inventory. But if I go back to 2019, you had 155 homes on the market. So you're gaining inventory, but you're not back to like pre-pandemic levels yet. And most of Arizona is back to pre-pandemic levels and over. So your market still looks like more of a tight market or tighter market. I can't say it's a complete seller's market, but it's not like buyers have all the leverage at all. Looks probably more balanced. Look at price growth, 0.1%, no price growth, really flat. And this is what's going on nationally. Like I think we're up, I think Redfin, I just looked today, Redfin has this nationally at like 1.9% price growth year over year. Zillow has this at like 1%. So nationally, we're really not growing prices. They're not crashing, but we're not growing. You're in that boat now too. It's just stagnant. A lot of markets are doing this. Nothing to speak of. Almost like stagflation in a weird way. Typical home value, $266,000. It's not an all-time high, but you're close. Your all-time high was right around here a few months ago at 268. So 266, about what you have been over the last few months. Very close to even the last few years. What have you done since? I'm curious what you've done in prices in the last 6 years. 65% price growth in the last 6 years, which is over 10% a year. And that's not normal, right? I mean, you had some big price growth in 2022 and stuff. So what about the last 10 years? How much are you up? 108% in the last 10 years. You can see what's happening because that over the last 10-year mark is slowing because your price growth is slowing. Now I should have been bringing this up more. Look at this. Look at your price growth. Now, tell me if you've heard this. One of the things you've probably heard is that, the wage growth has not kept up with home price growth. And that was true. That was true back in this time period. That's what wrecked everybody, right? Look at this, 23%, 22% price growth year over year back in, 2021 and 2022. Obviously, wages weren't growing for most people at 20%. But now look at it. Are your wages or most people's wages growing faster than 0.1%? And this is not real growth. This is nominal growth. But nominally, are you getting a 0.1% raise? Most people, when they get a raise, 3-4% maybe they get more, maybe they get a little less. And I'm not saying everybody gets a raise by any means, but your wage growth right now is outpacing where you are, probably, home price growth. So think about that. That's happening nationally too. Remember, I just said national numbers are very similar to this, 0.1%, 1%. So if we continue down the road, flash forward another 3 years of this stagnant, frozen market, eventually wages will really start to catch up to prices. It'll almost be like we were stuck in some kind of like quicksand for a while. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be super affordable for everybody by any means, but it's changing. It's like taking time to heal. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. But I am seeing this trend where prices are not growing as fast as wages. Whereas right here through 2021, 22, prices were growing a lot faster than wages. So that disparity is changing. And eventually, you get to a point that homes start to become more affordable for more people, the average home. Anyway, and if you're in a market where prices are falling big time, like 5%, we've seen today, some markets falling 6% with prices. Well, then if your wages increase 3%, that's a big change. A big change. Most people don't talk about that on YouTube. They'll just tell you that wages haven't kept up with home price growth, or the price to income ratio is out of whack. And you're like, I understand that. But look at what's happening. Anyway, that's 8583 85364 in Yuma. Thank you. Yeah, I just looked. Great. Thanks for watching for months. Wow. Okay. Might be the time to start looking at houses. Sure. I'm always looking. You just got my buy box that I put together, what I like or what I want, where I want it, my target price. And then I go out and search for it every morning for 15 minutes. Every morning, 15 minutes, I look through the listings. What fits my buy box? Nothing. All right, move on. Oh, these two. Okay. You are welcome. Bruno, you're welcome. I got one more in me. Let's find out what's happening. Before we get to the last one, look at this. Thanks, McConaughey. In 2008 was nuts. My pops lost his house. That sucks. Sorry, man. Bought it at 780 and sold it in foreclosure for 280. So this is like, if you were involved in this, it makes sense that you're gun shy or you think this could happen again. I'm not saying this is you, McConaughey, but there's a lot of folks out there that were involved in the great financial crisis and saw a lot of people get wrecked. I was in new construction in the southwestern part of the US at that point. I was in the new home construction business. And the faucet got shut off immediately and prices fell like this. I know tons of people. I didn't get wrecked. I didn't own a home then, but I had a lot of friends that got completely destroyed in Southern California, in Arizona, and Nevada. I had several friends buy condos in Vegas at like stupid prices back then, even 500 grand for a condo at the MGM or something, because they thought it was going to be a great investment. And then they ended up getting foreclosed on. It happened. It happened. Does this take into account new builds? Some of them. I mean, you got to remember the MLS isn't capturing all the new builds. So no, not all of them at all. But the existing homes are going to be a function of the new builds. So if there's a ton of new build inventory, that's going to weigh on the existing homes. Right? It just is. Yeah, stagflation at a national level. That's what we're in right now. That's what it feels like in the housing market. If you think 280 is affordable, you got to check out Gary, Indiana. We did that earlier. 57 grand for houses. Shout out Michael Jackson, right? That house is worth 1.35 million now. Wow. Goodness gracious. You live in California, everything is a million range. Yeah, California is insane. Prices there are insane. Property taxes aren't. I've discovered that. Property taxes are actually reasonable proportionally to the value of a house. What's up, Carissa? Good to see you. All right. So let me go back up here. Someone asked for one. I'm going to end it with this one, I think. 98665. And let me just look these up real quick. 98665. Zip code. Vancouver, Washington. Okay. I used to live in Seattle. I know that market. And then 95407. Where's that? 95407. That's Santa Rosa. Oof. Let me do Santa Rosa, 95407. Santa Rosa is like one of the, I mean, that's an amazing area. It's like insanely beautiful there. 95407. Actually got engaged there. I swear. I got engaged. I really like that area of the country. Look at the delistings there in Santa Rosa. 15%. That's high. 15% of all sellers delisting their homes, comparatively to the national number. National is like in the fives. Price reduction share, 17% isn't that much. People are not desperate to sell. They ain't cutting their price a ton. At least it doesn't look like from the data here. Median days on market, 34. Last year, 34. Homes sitting just about the same amount of time. They're not rotting on the market. Active inventory, what do we got? 55 homes on the market. Last year, 46. You've got more homes to choose from in Santa Rosa. So inventory definitely higher, and you're at a 10-year high of inventory. So will we see more price cuts? Maybe, because you've got more inventory. We'll have to check into Santa Rosa, as time goes on. Prices year over year down. And they've been down for months. And they really haven't been up at much to speak of in a while. And here's what's really weird. Look at this. Look at Santa Rosa. Look how there was not a massive jump in price. I mean, don't get me wrong, 11% is high in price growth. I mean, that's significant, but it's not 20 or 30 or 40%. So prices didn't go like parabolic, according to this data, like they did in some other areas, but now your prices are falling. Your prices are falling. So what are they falling to? Let's find out. What's the value in Santa Rosa? 649, we'll call it 650 grand for your typical house in Santa Rosa. And that's off about 28,000 bucks from your all-time high. But you can see from this chart there, it's not like a big, hump like you saw in a lot of other areas. There is a jump, right? During COVID, there was definitely a jump. You started out in 2020 at 565 grand. You ended up in 2022 at 678, another 100 grand in a couple years. So that was some big price growth, no doubt, but it's not 20% year over year, every single month. But now you're down to 648. So it looks like sellers are probably listing their home, maybe as they come on market, they're listing it for less than they were. Actually, I have that data. I should start using that. Median list price, let's look at that. Where are we? 685,000. Yeah, I can start using this. Last year, 712. So the typical or the median list price of a house has come down. Means sellers are like, well, maybe back in 2021, I would have listed this at 725, but now I'm going to have to list it lower. I'm going to have to go underneath 7 to get anybody to look at it. And they did. I'll start using this more on the next live because this is probably some good data to look at. Median list price. I have to cut another metric out so it doesn't go too long, but yeah. I would say sellers are probably getting realistic where you are. All right, one more here. There was a person here who asked, oh, I'm in Cali too, Sonoma County. Yeah, just did that one. Love that one. Make 189. My wife makes 50, and it just makes no sense to buy. At 600,000, no, I would agree. At your income, no offense, doesn't seem like it would make sense. Not unless you got somehow you got like a 0% interest rate, and you found a house at whatever whatever would make sense, but doesn't seem like 650 would make sense. No. Will homes come down to a price that makes sense? I don't know. That's a big drop probably for you. But do not stretch yourself to buy a house. That's the worst. Being house poor is the worst thing you can do. At least if you rent something, you can leave, even if you get an eviction or you got to, scurry out. At least it's not going to be like the pain of a foreclosure. So I would say, don't pressure yourself to buy. Nobody says you have to buy a house. Well, people do say that, but they're wrong. And if you hear realtors talk about, oh, you're building wealth and, you're just giving your money away if you're a renter, it's like, well, it depends on what you do with the money. If you're renting and you can afford the rent and you have extra and you invest it, the difference between how much a mortgage would be and a rent, and you invest that in whatever you're doing, buying rental properties in Gary, Indiana, buying stocks, whatever you want to do. And I'm not a financial advisor, but then it could make sense. And it could be a great thing to keep renting. A house, a primary house, is a succubus of money in most cases. A succubus. There's always something that is jacked up, always something that breaks, always something you got to do. Oh, shoot, I need a new Johnson rod for the whatever. Oh, my roof's leaking. Oh, that door's broken. Oh, there's a tree down in my yard. Oh, the barn needs painted. Oh, I need a new dehumidifier for the basement. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. So don't pressure yourself into buying a home, man. Just don't do it. All right, let me do one more here, and then I'm out. Ice pick, I did yours, right? 95407. And there was one more here I thought I missed, or I was going to do. Let me look. 95407. There's another one right through here. Maybe not. There it is. 98665. Chris, what's up? Let's do 98665 and then I'll wrap up. 98665. Only 4% of sellers delisting. That's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. That's below the national number. Price reductions. And you're in Vancouver, Washington. But look at the price cuts. Holy Toledo. 40%. 40% of all sell. That's almost half. This is the highest number I've seen all day. This is by far a record for you going all the way back to 2016. Nearly, it's not nearly half, but you're approaching half of all sellers are slashing their asking price. That is serious. That's a serious sign that sellers are in trouble. I mean, that's startling. Let's look at median list price now. Well, median list price is actually up year over year. Last year it was $499, this year $522. But a year before that it was $543. So it is lower than it was a couple years ago, but higher than it was last year. But now they're cutting. I mean, the sellers are cutting like crazy where you are. What's the inventory doing? Active inventory count, 100. Yeah, look at that. In that one zip code in Vancouver, Washington, 68 homes on the market last year, 100 this year, more houses, not a lot of delistings. Tells me that, and you have a lot of price cuts, it tells me sellers are leaving them on the market and cutting prices. They're going, I need to sell this. That's what I'm seeing from this data. Let's look at the prices real quick. Year over year, yeah, they're not moving at all. They're not crashing, but they're not up. They're just kind of stagnant. Same situation here. Prices aren't moving. If your wages, you live in Vancouver, wages going up at 3% a year, 4% a year, whatever it is, or you can get a side hustle, make some extra cash, and home prices aren't going up anymore, you're winning. Every month you're winning as a prospective buyer. Typical value, $507,000. Wow, Vancouver's expensive. Back in 2022, it was $505,000. So you are up from 2022. Is it an all-time high? It's not an all-time high. You're off only about $5,000. So it looks to me, Chris, like your market, the prices haven't moved yet really down. But it looks like there's pain from a seller's end. When those houses start to sell, because of all those price reductions, you may see this number start to tick down, and then that median list number will tick down because new sellers will look at the comps of what has been sold and go, I can't list like I thought I would, got to list it for lower. So I would see lower prices in the future there. Can't guarantee it, but if the trends continue, that's what I'm seeing. So Great info. Wow, I learned a lot today, folks. I learned a lot. I love looking at these markets. Look at any other comments, and then I'm out. Adventure, you are welcome. Thank you. Give me a like, thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. All that good stuff only takes a second. They lived in Portland in the good old days. Hasn't recovered since 2008. I used to live in Seattle, well, Tacoma, which isn't really Seattle, but I lived in the Northwest for a while. Yeah, it's insane. They delist and relist at a cut cost too. Yeah, if you often that's like a trick, right? Hey, I'm going to delist my home, then I'll relist it. You see it in the list. You see it all the time now. Oftentimes they do it thinking that the realtor is not good, so that they'll hire another realtor. And if the second realtor is better than the first realtor, they'll come in and say, I'm not going to list your home unless you're willing to drop your price, because it didn't sell at the price you had it at. So to relist it at that price is nuts. I won't even take a listing that way. I used to when I first started, but now I'm like, no, it ain't going to sell. It didn't sell last time at that price. Why would it sell now? So. Huh, you're repairing a car? Is that what you're doing? All-nighter? Yeah, you're welcome. Hey guys, thank you so much. I will see you next week. I am the housing nerd and I am out. OUT out. Peace.